And joining us now on our Book Talk segment, great to welcome a man who's written a book that is very interesting. He's going to hopefully explain to the rest of us out here how capitalism works, and it's called Confronting Capitalism, Real Solutions for a Troubled Economic System. We're joined today by Philip Kotler. He's an economist, and he joined us from the great city of Chicago today. And Philip, good to have a chance to chat with you for a couple of minutes. How are you?
I'm fine, Doug. Nice to talk.
It's a tough subject to kind of get a handle on, isn't it?
Well, here's a story. Capitalism is something that works very well for us. I mean, it's the best system for producing just a lot of goods and services. It's not like in Russia, you remember when they had shelves but nothing on the shelves? Right. But here's the problem. We want the stuff not only to be produced by capitalism, but to be sold. Now, that's the job of marketing, by the way. I see marketing, the subject that I grew up with, as the engine of capitalism. Namely, it gets people to buy the things that are coming out from the producers. However, if you look at what people earn, you'll find that $7.45 an hour isn't going to do the trick. So we've got to get money into the pockets of more people. By the way, it was Henry Ford so many years ago that realized that too, and he raised his pay to a worker from $2.35 an hour to $5 so that they could buy his cars. So my approach to the subject is, what can we do to put more money into the pockets of people so they can buy the things that capitalism is so good at producing? Warren Buffett said the statement that he thinks he's terribly overpaid and terribly undertaxed. Actually, there's a whole group called the Patriotic Americans who say, hey, guys, we want to pay more tax. The problem there is that, those are people who say we need more money spent to improve our education, our health system, and so on. They're not sure they want to be taxed if the money goes to defense. In other words, we've got a big budget for defense and too small a budget for education and health and some other things. And it would be an interesting idea to say, look, I want to pay more tax, but could you put it into a program, a very sound program for education improvement? Right. So we don't do that yet, So the resistance is, well, if you have the image, like some people in the Republican Party, that government is inefficient, too much red tape, too big. So why just send them the tax money? Because God knows how it's going to be used. So can we get people to have choice about how they want their tax money to be used?
I think that's one of the big issues. People see how much money is being wasted from our taxes. If you just spend that wisely, you wouldn't have to raise taxes. But that may be unrealistic. But that's one.
I know. We have lots of ideas, and of course the question is, do we have a Congress that will pass on some of these ideas?
Right.
Remember, every congressman starts immediately working after being elected on raising more money for the next election. And now each presidential candidate has a billionaire behind them. One of them or two of them have two billionaires behind them. So then they're beholden a little to those people, right? So they can't be too free in what they believe in. You've got two systems to examine. One is, what can we do to improve capitalism, and what can we do to improve the democratic system that we have?
Getting back to the wages and all that kind of thing, and I think about 20 years ago, that whole NAFTA situation, I think Ralph Perot probably said it best, the giant sucking sound of all the jobs leaving the country. Particularly manufacturing job. That's a huge basis for the problem today we're in, isn't it? Just how much manufacturing going on in the country. It's a great job.
What's worse is the problem that we are having innovation in our capitalist system, which is wonderful. We have to create new industries and new jobs. The jobs being created by the new industries are not labor intensive. And if they hire workers, they need very skilled workers. So it's nothing like what we had in the factories where we had 5,000 workers and they were skilled and semi-skilled and maybe a little unskilled too. Will capitalism be able to produce enough jobs in the future with automation rearing its ugly head? So you're right, and you brought up NAFTA and so on. We did export our jobs. Now, part of it was the feeling that we want to put more money in the pockets of other countries, poor people there, because then they will buy some of the more sophisticated products we make here. So we didn't look ahead far enough to realize that that would destroy our factories.
Yeah, that was such a huge part of, right after the post-war, right, where all it was a forced factory building to build the military equipment, but after that, they were in place till all the other manufacturing came out of that, washing machines, cars, and all that kind of thing. That was in place already. We don't have that anymore, do we?
Yeah, and then we got all the automobiles being made in Mexico instead of here to help Mexico, because Mexico would buy a lot of our products if they had more money. But it's still, looking back, I don't think we're going to see factories of the scope we had before. The joke is this: they could have a factory, in a factory, one person who watches the dials and one dog to keep them awake. So that's not many jobs.
What do you make? I know you talk about it in the book a bit. Obviously, China now seemingly has taken over as the #1 economy. Of course, they have so many more people than the United States does, but are they going to be, they still have to rely on us to buy their products and vice versa. So are they a danger to us, capitalism-wise? I mean, they're not really fully capitalistic either, are they? They're still kind of a mix, aren't they?
It depends on how you define capitalism. I think most of the countries of the world now are capitalistic in the sense that they have a lot of private owners of big companies, very big companies. In Russia, the billionaires that have been created by guys who own companies free of the government owning the companies, and then in China too. So they're partially capitalistic, and the question is, China has become the factory of the world, and India has become the office of the world, and so on. So the real reason I wrote the book is I want capitalism to work better, for more people, by the way. You hear the dialogue about the 1%. Capitalism has really well rewarded the 1%, the already rich. How? Because if your capitalism is not regulated in some way, if it's perfectly free capitalism, cowboy capitalism, it will make the rich richer and keep most of us earning what we've earned at that level. Our wages won't go up. So the question is, what can you do to tilt that? And my book is partly chapter 2, particularly about the income growing gap. But I have, you notice, 14 chapters. By the way, it's a small book. It's only 250 pages. But I treat 14 different problems and then I try to propose solutions, not mine necessarily, but anything that seems sensible to be considered by Congress or others that might help ameliorate or soften the problem.
Are you optimistic, Philip, that we're going to turn this thing, I know a lot of people are still doing well in the economy now, but a lot of people aren't. Are you optimistic it's going to get back somewhat to what it was, or eventually better?
Excellent question. Here's the story. I'm an optimist by nature. However, I have seen some strong and puzzling statements. For example, one is that there won't be much growth in the United States for the next 50 years compared to what we saw in the glory of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and so on. And that was done by a statement from the former president of Harvard University that there won't be much growth. We have a Northwestern University professor on my faculty, Robert Gordon, who also says that we should be lucky if we get half of 1% growth annually for the next several years. On the other hand, if you read a book called Abundance by Peter Diamandis, he is so optimistic. He says there won't be poverty in the next 20 years from now. That we're going to have twice as many bananas growing on trees through agricultural productivity. And water will all be available through desalinization. So you can move either way, Doug. And I happen to be the more optimistic person that through innovation and creativity, we will find ways to do better.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think America was based on innovation. Obviously, it was based on getting away from governments that kind of control us. So I think you're right. I think the innovation and creativity is going to get us out of it. Just changing a mindset is going to take longer.
Yeah, we're in a big candidate race now between two parties and then many candidates for each. And I hope we can elect someone who knows not only domestic problems, but foreign problems and so on. And I worry that a lot of candidates have never even thought about what's going on abroad. And you can't make decisions here without seeing how we're being impacted by everything going on in the world.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a fascinating book, and like I said, it's one you don't have to study economics to get a lot out of it. It's called Confronting Capitalism. We've been talking to Philip Kotler today. And do you have a website you want to direct people to, Philip? They can get more information or get the whole of the book?
Yeah, it's pkotler@aol.com. pkotler@aol.com.
Well, folks,
glad to give more information.
Yeah, appreciate talking to you. We have also a place on our website. We'll post the podcast as well. People can order the book. But appreciate you taking a few minutes. Great to have your commentary on this, and hopefully we can talk to you again. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for your interview.
If you'd like to order the book we're talking about, please go to DougMilesMedia.com and enter the author's name in the Amazon search box. Thank you for listening. Please come back soon for more conversations here at DougMilesMedia.com. This has been a presentation of Doug Miles Media, all rights reserved. You can listen to or download previous programs at iTunes, Stitcher.com, or Doug Miles